recent suspension of Asmongold for his statements on the Israel-Palestine conflict unveils a far-reaching issue that has consistently haunted the digital space: the suppression of free expression when one broaches topics of immense geopolitical sensitivity. The very mention of Israel in a negative or even critical light has become a near-certain trigger for swift retaliation from platforms that claim to champion free speech, all while tiptoeing around certain international actors with disproportionate influence. Israel's unique position in global politics, particularly in the United States, casts a long and complex shadow. No nation seems to have such a profound effect on the American zeitgeist, whether through its strategic alliances, political lobbying, or pervasive presence in media narratives. This outsized influence often sparks resentment and fuels conspiracy theories, yet discussing this openly leads many into treacherous territory, where the consequences of free expression may become a silencing ban. At the heart of this conflict, though, lies a dichotomy that extends far beyond Israel itself. The turmoil in the Middle East, where thousands are losing their lives in a crisis that seems perpetually beyond resolution, stands in stark contrast to the relative indifference displayed by many in the West. For a vast number of Americans, these violent conflicts might as well be on another planet, distant, abstract problems that don't interfere with the pressing minutiae of their daily lives. This pervasive apathy, however, underscores a deeper, more troubling reality: the media landscape's role in filtering which global crises penetrate Western consciousness, and more importantly, how these events are framed. In the case of Asmongold's ban, it wasn't just about the topic of Israel itself. It was about how platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter compel content creators to engage in a specific type of discourse. A discourse that, at its core, is manufactured by algorithms designed not for truth or balanced discussion, but for controversy, virality, and extremism. When content creators are forced to participate in this performative outrage, they invariably begin to lose control over the meaning of their own words. What begins as an attempt to discuss complex political issues spirals into something far more insidious: a feedback loop where incendiary comments are rewarded with engagement, and any semblance of nuance is sacrificed on the altar of clicks, likes, and shares. This phenomenon mirrors the broader struggle for free speech, which in our current digital ecosystem is less about the right to speak freely and more about navigating the pitfalls of a world where every word is hyper-analyzed, weaponized, and used to fuel a cycle of polarization. In particular, Israel, a nation that is both revered and reviled, stands at the crux of these speech dynamics. No other country seems to wield such an intricate and often divisive presence in American discourse, whether through its economic ties, foreign policy influence, or historical role in the Middle East. Yet it is precisely because of this complex dynamic that discussing Israel, especially in a critical context, often results in swift censorship, a reality that stands in stark contrast to the supposed values of freedom of expression that these platforms claim to uphold. Let us not forget that the Israeli lobby in the United States is one of the most powerful foreign influences on American policy, particularly through organizations like AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. It's no secret that Israel's interests frequently align with American foreign policy decisions, often to the detriment of broader, more balanced Middle Eastern discourse. These complexities further complicate the issue, as anyone attempting to tackle the Israel-Palestine conflict publicly runs the risk of being labeled as one side or the other. Asmongold's ban was not an isolated incident. It was merely the latest symptom of a systemic issue where criticism of Israel is often conflated with more insidious forms of prejudice, thereby justifying heavy-handed responses from platforms that fear controversy or backlash. But herein lies the crux of the matter. The deeper issue is not merely the ban or even the specifics of Asmongold's comments. It is the slow, insidious erosion of self that content creators face when they are forced to pick sides on issues where no clear right or wrong exists. Social media platforms are not neutral spaces. They are meticulously designed to amplify extremes, and in doing so, they strip away the intricacies of human thought, reducing every argument to a binary choice. The consequence of this is profound. Creators, in their quest to stay relevant or to speak on trending topics, often find themselves spiraling into positions they never intended to take, becoming caricatures of the very person they sought to avoid. In this hyper-polarized environment, the freedom to speak freely comes with the paradoxical burden of navigating a system that punishes complexity and rewards sensationalism. When creators discuss controversial issues like the Israel-Palestine conflict, they do so under immense pressure to take a stance, to be bold, to go viral. Yet, in doing so, they risk losing control over their own narrative. Their words, once filled with intent and meaning, become fodder for a machine that thrives on distortion. The nuance of their message is lost as the algorithms push them further into extremity, all while the platforms themselves pretend to champion the very freedoms they undermine. Asmongold's ban is emblematic of this tension between free speech and the reality of what it means to exist in the digital age. It represents the struggle that content creators face when trying to navigate politically charged topics, knowing that every word they utter might be used against them. The deeper meaning here is not just about free speech or even censorship. It's about the psychological toll that this constant performance takes on individuals. In a world where every statement is scrutinized, every opinion dissected, and every nuance flattened, creators must be wary of losing themselves in the noise. The more they speak, the less they may recognize the person doing the speaking. This video should serve as a wake-up call, a reflection on the state of discourse today, and the broader implications of how the digital world shapes not just what we say, but who we become. Content creators and audiences alike must remain vigilant, not only against censorship, but against the far more subtle erosion of self that comes when we let platforms dictate the terms of our speech. As humans, we are nuanced, complex beings, and our conversations should reflect that. But in this world, where silence can be mistaken for complicity and speech can spiral into unintended consequences, we must navigate carefully lest we lose our voice and our sense of self in the process.